My mother locked a door that had been open my entire life. Tell me if you've ever had to choose between believing your family or believing your instincts. Because that's where I was standing, in the upstairs hallway of the house I grew up in, staring at a brass knob that suddenly had a keyhole I'd never noticed before. It started 3 weeks earlier, in October, when the light in the house changed. Not the actual light, the emotional temperature. You know how a room feels different when someone's just had an argument, even if you walked in after? That's what came home with me from college that fall break. The air tasted recycled. My father's laugh arrived 2 seconds too late. My sister stopped finishing her sentences when I entered rooms. But it was the heirloom that made my skin go cold. My grandmother's jade bracelet, the one that sat on the hallway credenza for 23 years, the one Mom touched every morning like a talisman, was gone. When I asked about it, Mom's hands froze mid-chop at the cutting board. She didn't look up. Oh, I put it somewhere safe. Safe from what? From who? We lived in a suburb where people still left garage doors open. I watched her fingers grip the knife handle. Her knuckles went white as porcelain under pressure. Where? I asked. I don't remember exactly. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile you give a stranger asking for directions you don't have. Polite, distant, false. Ever had your mother look at you like you're an auditor instead of her daughter? The next day I noticed the routines had shifted. Dad used to have coffee at 6:15, read the paper in his robe, kiss Mom on the temple before heading upstairs to shower. Now he was gone by 5:45. No coffee, no paper, no kiss. When I asked where he'd been, he said early meeting, in the same flat tone someone uses to say no comment. My sister Jenna started working late. Every night. A 22-year-old graphic designer whose boss supposedly needed revisions at 9-page M on a Tuesday. She wouldn't meet my eyes during dinner, just pushed pasta around her plate like she was conducting an archaeology dig. I started cataloging the changes. Small shifts. Micro adjustments. The kinds of things you'd miss if you weren't looking. But once you saw them, they became a pattern. A language. Dad's phone, always face up on the counter, now stayed face down in his pocket. Mom stopped asking about my classes. Jenna stopped playing music in her room. The house that used to hum with noise went library silent after 8-page M. Your family is supposed to be the place where you don't have to translate, where behavior comes with context you've spent a lifetime learning to read. But suddenly I was a foreigner in my own home, and nobody was offering subtitles. On my 4th night back, I went looking for old photo albums, the kind of nostalgic self-soothing you do when you're homesick for a home that's still standing but somehow missing. I headed to the storage closet at the end of the hall, the one that held Christmas ornaments, yearbooks, and 30 years of family archaeology. That's when I saw it. The door, which had never had a lock, which had a handle so loose it swung open if you breathed near it, now had a deadbolt. Shiny, new. Installed recently enough that the wood around the strike plate still smelled like sawdust. I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe 10, just staring at it. My pulse tapped Morse code against my wrists. I reached for the knob. Locked. I knocked. Silence. I called out, "Mom, is there a key for this?" Her voice floated up from the kitchen, honey-sweet and sharp at the edges. "For what, sweetheart?" "The storage closet." Pause. Long enough to hear the refrigerator hum, long enough to feel my stomach drop. "Oh, that's just junk up there now. Nothing you need." "Nothing I need, or nothing I'm allowed to see?" I pressed my ear to the wood. No sound, but somehow the silence felt occupied. Like the door was holding its breath along with me. Later that night, I lay in my childhood bed, the one with glow-in-the-dark stars still stuck to the ceiling, and replayed every evasive answer, every avoiding glance, every locked door. For the first time, I wasn't the storm in this family. I was the forecast. And I could feel the pressure dropping. The next morning, I found the key hidden in my father's office. The key was warm when I found it, tucked inside Dad's desk drawer, beneath insurance documents and tax returns. Wrapped in a business card I didn't recognize. The metal held body heat, like someone had been holding it recently, turning it over in their palm, deciding something. I stood in his office doorway at 6 a.m., my father's coffee mug still steaming on the desk, his chair still warm. He'd left in a hurry. Again, And he'd left the drawer unlocked. Tell me if you've ever had to choose between respecting privacy and demanding truth. Because that's the razor wire you walk when your family starts treating transparency like treason. I took the key. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered as I walked toward the storage closet. Each step sounded like a confession. The floorboards creaked their judgment. My heartbeat filled my ears like stadium drums before a penalty kick. The key slid into the lock with a whisper that felt obscene, that easy, that smooth, like it had been used recently, often. Inside, boxes, dozens of them, labeled in my mother's handwriting, sharp, efficient script that I'd seen on birthday cards and grocery lists my entire life. But these labels were different, clinical, coded. Estate, 2019, medical, primary, transfer, pending. Ever had your childhood reduced to inventory codes while you were still living in it? I pulled down the box marked Estate, 2019, the year my grandmother died. The year Mom inherited the jade bracelet, the house in Vermont, and what Dad called enough to make things comfortable. Inside, documents. Legal papers with signatures I recognized, Mom's looping M, Dad's aggressive slant, and dates. Dates that made my mouth go dry. The estate settlement was dated March 2019, but my grandmother died in January 2019, 2 months between death and distribution. Standard, probably. Except there was another document underneath. An amendment, filed in February, before the estate settled. My grandmother's signature sat at the bottom. But the handwriting wavered. Shaky. Wrong. I'd seen her write 1,000 birthday checks with that same elegant cursive, steady as a heartbeat. This looked like someone had traced it during turbulence. I photographed everything with shaking hands. The flash felt like lightning in the dim closet. Each click sounded like evidence compounding. Then I found the letter. Not in an envelope, just folded once, tucked between the legal documents like a bookmark, handwritten. My grandmother's actual handwriting. Strong, sure, unmistakable. To my granddaughter. If you're reading this, I'm gone and someone has made choices about my wishes that I did not approve while living. The house in Vermont goes to you directly, not through your mother. I've told her this 3 times. The deed is with Attorney Morrison in Burlington. I'm writing this in case memories become flexible after I'm not here to correct them. Love persists, even when truth gets rewritten. Grandma Rose. The paper trembled in my hands, not from age, from my pulse. I heard footsteps on the stairs. My mother's voice floated up, musical and light. Sweetheart, you up? I shoved the letter into my pocket, stacked the documents back in chaotic order, closed the box. My fingers felt numb, the key burned in my palm like evidence. Yeah, I called back, my voice cracked, just looking for something. Find it? Pause. The closet suddenly felt airless. Not yet. I locked the door behind me, pocketed the key, walked downstairs with my grandmother's words pressed against my ribs like a second heartbeat. Mom stood at the stove making eggs. She smiled at me, warm, familiar, the smile I'd trusted for 23 years. Sleep okay? Great, I lied. She turned back to the pan. Your father had to leave early again. Big project closing. What project? Her shoulders stiffened. Micro movement. There and gone. Oh, real estate stuff. Boring. Real estate. Vermont. Deed. Attorney Morrison. The words lined up in my head like bullets in a chamber. Mom, I said, keeping my voice soft, casual, whatever happened to Grandma's house in Vermont? The spatula clattered against the pan. She didn't pick it up. Just stood there, back to me, spine rigid as rebar. We sold it, she said finally. Too much upkeep. When? Last year. To who? Now she turned. Her face was pleasant, practiced. The expression you give when you're about to deliver a line you've rehearsed. A family from Montreal. Why? Just curious. She held my gaze for 3 seconds too long, searching for something, measuring how much I knew, how much I suspected, how much danger I posed. Then she smiled again. Eggs? I nodded, sat down. Ate breakfast across from the woman who taught me to read, who braided my hair before school photos, who signed permission slips and prom curfew extensions. The woman who might have forged my grandmother's signature and stolen my inheritance while I was studying for midterms 300 miles away. The next conversation would either lock me out forever or blow the door off its hinges. I called Attorney Morrison from my car in the grocery store parking lot. The kind of call you make when you need witnesses nearby but no one listening close. Soccer moms loading minivans. Teenagers vaping by the cart return. Normal life humming around the moment your world tilts. The receptionist put me on hold. Elevator music played, something instrumental and insulting, like my crisis needed a soundtrack from a dentist's waiting room. Then, Morrison Law, how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling about my grandmother's estate, Rose Whitmore. She passed in 2019. Pause. Keyboard clicking. And you are? Her granddaughter. She mentioned in a letter that she'd filed documents with your office about a property in Vermont. Longer pause. Let me transfer you to Mr. Morrison. 3 rings, then a voice, older, careful, the tone lawyers use when they smell litigation. Ms. Whitmore? Yes. I'm sorry for your loss, though it's been some years now. Thank you. I'm trying to locate information about the Vermont property my grandmother owned. She indicated the deed was filed with you. Silence. The kind that costs $300 an hour. Ms. Whitmore, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Your grandmother's estate was settled through your mother as executor. There was no separate filing for property transfer. My stomach dropped. Are you sure? Quite sure. I handled the estate personally, single beneficiary. Everything passed to your mother directly.
What my grandmother wrote.
What did she write? I couldn't say it. Couldn't accuse my mother to a stranger with a law degree and a retainer on file. Couldn't make it real by speaking it into a phone record that might become evidence. Never mind, I said. Thank you for your time. I sat in the car for 20 minutes afterward. The phone felt radioactive in my lap. Either my grandmother lied in her letter, or someone made sure that letter never reached the right hands. Ever had your family rewrite history while you were in the room, smiling, asking you to pass the salt? That night at dinner, I decided to test the temperature. Casual, innocent, just a granddaughter curious about her inheritance. Mom, did Grandma leave anything specifically to me in her will? My sister's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My father's eyes snapped to Mom like he was waiting for her cue card. Mom dabbed her lips with a napkin, buying time, organizing her script. She left everything to me, honey, with the understanding that it would benefit the whole family. But nothing direct? No. Why? Just wondering. Dad cleared his throat. Your grandmother trusted your mother completely. That's how these things work. Interesting. Dad, who'd been silent for days, who left before dawn and came home after dark, suddenly had talking points ready. Rehearsed. Coordinated. Did she ever talk about the Vermont house? I asked. About who she wanted to have it? Mom's smile tightened. Imperceptible unless you were looking for it. She knew we'd handle it appropriately. Which was selling it to a family from Montreal. Now Dad set down his fork. What's with the interrogation? I'm not interrogating. I'm asking. It sounds like interrogation, Jenna said quietly. My sister, who'd been silent through 3 family dinners, now had an opinion. I turned to her. You knew about this? She wouldn't look at me. Just pushed food around her plate like she was defusing a bomb. Knew about what? Mom asked. Her voice had gone crystalline, brittle, 1 degree away from shattering. The Vermont house, the sale, the timing. There's nothing to know, Dad said flatly. Your grandmother passed, your mother inherited. We made sound financial decisions as a family. End of story. Except it's not the end, I said, because Grandma wrote something different. The air left the room. Mom's face went still, not shocked, calculated, like she was running probability models behind her eyes. Wrote what? A letter. What letter? Dad's voice had edges now. One I found. Where? Mom asked. Too fast. Too sharp. I held her gaze. Does it matter? Jenna stood abruptly. I have to go. Sit down, Dad said. I have work. It's 8:30 at night. Deadline. She grabbed her bag and left. The front door closed with a sound like punctuation. Final. Absolute. Mom folded her hands on the table, the same hands that taught me to tie my shoes, that held my face when I cried, that signed documents I was never supposed to see. Sweetheart, she said softly, I think you're confused about something. I don't think I am. Your grandmother was unwell toward the end. Her memory? Her handwriting was steady? Dad's jaw clenched. You need to drop this. Why? Because you're disrespecting your grandmother's memory. Or protecting it. Mom stood, collected plates with mechanical precision. Her movements were too controlled, like she was counting beats, staying on script. This conversation is over. It's really not? She turned to face me, and for the first time in my life, I didn't recognize her expression. It wasn't anger, it wasn't hurt, it was assessment. Like I'd become a problem that needed solving. If you found something, she said carefully, you should give it to me. Why? Because it belongs to this family. I'm part of this family. Then act like it. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. My father stood, came around the table, stopped 2 feet from me, close enough that I could smell his aftershave, the same brand he'd worn my entire life, now somehow menacing. Whatever you think you know, he said quietly, you're wrong. And if you keep pushing this, you're going to damage relationships that can't be repaired. Relationships, I repeated. Or reputations. He didn't answer, just held my gaze until I looked away. I went upstairs, locked my bedroom door, sat on the floor with my grandmother's letter pressed against my chest. My phone buzzed. Text from Jenna, stop. Please just stop. I typed back, stop what? 3 dots pulsed. Disappeared. Pulsed again. Finally, you don't understand what you're doing. Then explain it to me. The dots vanished. No response. I opened my laptop, searched property records for Burlington, Vermont, found the house, found the sale date, April 2019. 2 months after Grandma died, 1 month after the amendment I'd found. Buyer, Whitmore Family Trust. Not a family from Montreal, a trust, our trust. They didn't sell the house, they hid it. Whatever was hiding behind the estate documents smelled like my name and gasoline. I found Carol Winters through the property records, co-signer on the trust, witness signature on the amendment, a name I'd never heard in 23 years of family dinners and holiday gatherings. She answered on the second ring. Hello? Ms. Winters? My name is Emma Whitmore. I'm Rose Whitmore's granddaughter. Silence, not empty silence, the weighted kind. Like someone holding their breath underwater, deciding whether to surface. I'm sorry, she said finally. I don't think I can help you. Please, I just need to understand what happened with my grandmother's estate. You should talk to your mother. I did. That's why I'm calling you. Another pause. I heard wind chimes through the phone, a dog barking. The mundane soundtrack of someone's Tuesday afternoon while my world cracked open. I can't, she whispered. I signed an agreement. My pulse spiked. What kind of agreement? I'm sorry, I really can't. Ms. Winters, Carol, my grandmother left me a letter. She said the house was supposed to go to me directly. I need to know if that's true. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, where are you? At home. Well, my parents' house. Can you meet me? Not there. Somewhere public. Yes, anywhere. There's a coffee shop on Maple Street. The one with the blue awning. Tomorrow at 2. Come alone. I will. And Emma? Her voice dropped. Don't tell your family we spoke. The line went dead. I sat in my car outside that coffee shop for 30 minutes before she arrived, watching the door, watching the street, feeling like a character in a thriller where the genre is your own life and you don't know if you're the detective or the target. Carol Winters looked like someone's aunt. Mid-50s, cardigan, reading glasses on a beaded chain. The kind of person who bakes for church fundraisers and knows everyone's business without being cruel about it. She ordered tea, sat across from me, folded her hands on the table like she was about to deliver bad news to a stranger. Your grandmother was my best friend, she said. For 40 years. I didn't know that. Your mother preferred to keep certain friendships compartmentalized. The word landed heavy, deliberate. What happened? I asked. Carol looked out the window. A muscle worked in her jaw. Rose called me in December 2018. She'd just been diagnosed. Stage 4. The doctors gave her 2 months, maybe 3. She wanted to get her affairs in order. I already knew this part. The diagnosis, the timeline, the speed of it. She was very specific about her wishes, Carol continued. The Vermont house was to go to you directly, not through your mother. She'd seen how your mother handled money, how your father handled money, and she didn't trust it. So she changed her will? She tried to. She called Attorney Morrison, set up an appointment, but she never made it to that appointment. My throat tightened. Why not? Your mother convinced her she was being paranoid, that the medication was making her anxious, that of course everything would be handled properly. Why would Rose doubt her own daughter? Ever had someone weaponize your love against you? Use your trust as the actual blade? So she canceled the appointment, I said. Yes, but she wasn't stupid. She knew something felt wrong, so she wrote the letter and gave it to me. Told me to give it to you if anything seemed off after she died. Why didn't you? Carol's eyes filled. Because I signed that agreement. Your mother came to me 3 days after Rose's funeral, said there were irregularities in the estate. Said if I claimed Rose had different intentions, it would trigger an investigation that would drag Rose's name through probate court. Said Rose deserved peace. That's manipulation. I know. But she also offered me money, enough to cover my mortgage. And she made it very clear that if I refused, she'd make my life difficult. She knew things. Personal things Rose had told her in confidence. Medical things about my son. Financial things about my divorce. The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm, too bright. She blackmailed you. She called it ensuring family privacy. I called it survival. Carol reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Old, yellowed at the edges. My name written across the front in my grandmother's handwriting. I was supposed to destroy this. I couldn't. I took the letter with shaking hands. There's more, Carol said. The amendment you found? The one with Rose's signature. Yes? Rose never signed that. She was in hospice by February. She couldn't hold a pen. I was with her. Your mother came to visit alone one afternoon, sent me home early, said she wanted private time with her mother. Rose died 2 days later. The implication hung in the air like smoke. You think my mother forged it? I think your mother is very good at making things look legitimate. Why are you telling me this now? Carol's face crumpled. Because Rose asked me to. Because I've watched you grow up from afar and I know you're like her. You don't let things go. And because I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed last month. Your mother's agreement doesn't scare me anymore. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. I'm sorry, I managed. She smiled, sad, resigned. Don't be. I'm finally free to tell the truth. But Emma... She leaned forward. Her hand covered mine. Cold. Papery. Be careful asking about this. Your mother has spent 5 years building a story. She's not going to let you dismantle it without a fight. What can she do? I don't know. But Rose was afraid of her toward the end. Really afraid. She wouldn't say why, just kept saying your mother had changed. That something had happened that made her desperate. What thing? She never told me, but whatever it was big enough to make your mother willing to do whatever it took to secure that inheritance. Carol stood, gathered her purse, touched my shoulder briefly, the kind of touch that carries weight. Goodbye, good luck, I'm sorry. The documents you need are in Rose's safety deposit box, Bank of New England, Burlington branch. The key is taped inside the cover of her cookbook, the one with the red spine. Your mother has the cookbook. How do you know? Because Rose told me where she hid it. And your mother asked me about it the day after the funeral. Carol walked out of the coffee shop. I watched her get into her car, watched her drive away, watched a piece of living memory disappear around the corner. I opened the second letter, this one shorter, more urgent, written in my grandmother's shaky late-stage handwriting. Emma, if Carol gave you this, I'm gone and something is very wrong. The house is yours. The deed is in the box. Account number 847-293B. Your mother knows about the debt. She knows what your father did. She's going to use my estate to cover it. Don't let her erase me to save him. Trust your instincts. They're mine. Grandma Rose. I photographed the letter, time-stamped, geotagged, evidence building like storm clouds. Then I called my sister. Jenna, what debt is Grandma talking about? I can't. What did Dad do? Emma, please. What did he do? Silence, then crying, quiet, broken. He gambled it, all of it. The retirement accounts, the college funds, the mortgage. He took loans against the house, against his business. It was gone before Grandma even died. Mom found out in January. She's been holding it together ever since. The world stopped spinning. How much? 300,000, maybe more. I don't know the full number. And Grandma's estate was the only thing that could save us from losing everything. I hung up, sat in my car, watched normal people live normal lives through the coffee shop window. My father had destroyed us financially, my mother had destroyed us morally, and I was the only one who seemed to think truth mattered more than survival. Minute 47 blinked on my voicemail. Whatever happened next would be time-stamped forever. I drove to the Burlington Bank the next morning. 4 hours straight, no music, no podcasts, just highway hum and the sound of my own breathing doing combat with my pulse. The cookbook sat in the passenger seat. Red spine, stained cover, my grandmother's handwriting on recipe cards tucked inside, measurements and temperatures, and little notes like, add extra vanilla and don't overmix. Instructions for creating something good from raw ingredients. I found the key exactly where Carol said it would be, taped inside the back cover, small, silver, stamped with numbers that matched the account Carol had given me. The bank manager checked my ID 3 times, asked questions about my grandmother that felt like a test. Her middle name, her birthday, her favorite season. I passed. She led me to a small room with fluorescent lighting that made everything look like evidence. The safety deposit box was heavier than I expected. Inside, the original deed to the Vermont house, made out to me, dated 2018, notarized, legal, indisputable. Also inside, bank statements showing transfers, my father's name, my mother's signature, money moving from my grandmother's accounts in the weeks before she died. Small amounts, 500 here, 1,000 there, enough to look like legitimate expenses, medication, hospice care, funeral planning. Except the dates were wrong. The transfers started 6 months before the diagnosis, before my grandmother even knew she was dying. I photographed everything, every page, every signature, every date that didn't line up with the story I'd been told. Then I found the recording. A thumb drive, labeled in my grandmother's handwriting, for Emma, if needed. I sat in that sterile bank room and plugged it into my laptop. My hands shook so hard I could barely work the USB port. My grandmother's voice filled my headphones, weak, thin, but clear. Emma, baby. If you're hearing this, I'm gone and things have gone the way I feared they would. I'm recording this on February 9th, 2019. I'm in hospice. Your mother just left. She asked me to sign something. An amendment to my will. She said it was just a formality, to make the transfer process smoother. I told her I wanted my lawyer to review it first. She said there wasn't time, that I might not be lucid much longer, that she needed to protect the family. Pause. Labored breathing. I didn't sign it, but I saw the look in her eyes when I refused. And Emma, I've never been afraid of my own daughter before yesterday. She needs something from me, more than she needs me. And that's when you become dangerous to the people you're supposed to protect. Another pause. Longer. The house is yours. The deed is in this box. I've told Attorney Morrison. I've told Carol. I'm telling you now, in case none of that matters after I'm gone. Don't let them erase what I wanted. Don't let them turn my love into their solution. The recording ended. I sat there for 20 minutes, maybe longer. Time felt negotiable. Then I muttered it out loud to the empty room. Family forensics. Let the internet do the rest. I called my mother from the bank parking lot. Hi, sweetheart. Where are you? Burlington. Pause. Why? Bank of New England, safety deposit, box 847, 293B. The line went silent, not dead, just empty of sound, like she'd stopped breathing. I need you to come home, she said finally. I need you to tell me the truth. We'll talk when you get back. We'll talk now. Emma. Her voice had shifted, no longer mother warm. Something else. Something I'd never heard before. Command without affection. You don't understand the situation. I understand you forged Grandma's signature. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious recording. Silence. Then, what recording? The one where Grandma explains that she refused to sign your amendment. The one time-stamped and dated. The one where she says she's afraid of you. I heard something crash in the background. Glass. My father's voice. Muffled. Sharp. Where are you? Mom asked. Again. Different tone. Urgent. Doesn't matter. I'm coming home. And we're having a family meeting. Don't do this. It's already done. I hung up. Ever had your whole family treat your inheritance like their emergency fund while you were taking chemistry midterms? The drive home felt like a countdown. Every mile marker a timer ticking down to detonation. I practiced what I'd say, rehearsed the questions, imagined their faces when they realized I had everything. The deed. The statements. The recording. The witness testimony from Carol. I pulled into the driveway at 6 p.m. Every light in the house was on. Their cars were both there. Jenna's too. They were waiting. I walked in with my laptop bag and my grandmother's cookbook, set them on the dining room table like evidence exhibits. Mom, Dad, Jenna, all sitting, all watching me with expressions I couldn't decode. Okay, I said, let's talk about the $300,000. Dad's face went white. Let's talk about the forged amendment. Mom's jaw clenched. Let's talk about the safety deposit box you hoped I'd never find. Jenna looked at the floor. I opened my laptop, pulled up the photographs, the deed, the statements, the amendment with the signature that didn't match the authenticated documents from 2017. Keep your cursor on minute 214, I said. Once you hear the part where Grandma says she's afraid of you, Mom, once you hear that, you'll understand why I spent 4 hours downloading this to 6 different cloud services. I pressed play. My grandmother's voice filled the room, weak but devastating, each word a nail in the coffin of their carefully constructed story. They listened in silence. Mom's hands gripped the table edge. Dad stared at a point on the wall. Jenna cried quietly. When it ended, no one spoke. So I said, who wants to go first? Dad stood, walked out. The front door slammed. Mom looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not shame. Something colder. Calculation. You have no idea what you've just done, she said quietly. I know exactly what I've done. Do you? Do you understand what happens now? To this family, to your father's business, to Jenna's future. Do you understand what you did to Grandma's wishes, to my inheritance, to basic human decency? She smiled, thin, mirthless. You sound just like her, self-righteous, naive, convinced that truth matters more than survival. It does. Then you'll learn the hard way that it doesn't. She stood, walked upstairs. Her bedroom door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded like a threat. Jenna looked at me. You should have let it go. Would you have? She didn't answer, just grabbed her keys and left. I sat alone at the dining room table, my laptop still open, my grandmother's voice still echoing in my ears, the deed to a house I'd never seen sitting in front of me like a prize I'd won by losing everything else. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Attorney Morrison. Your mother just called me. We need to talk. I pressed record on my phone's voice memo app. One tap, and my mother's reputation could start tumbling. Attorney Morrison called at 7 a.m. I was still awake. Hadn't slept. Just sat in my childhood bedroom watching the ceiling fan rotate, counting the ways everything had changed in 48 hours. Ms. Whitmore, we need to discuss your allegations. They're not allegations, they're facts with timestamps. Your mother claims you've stolen estate documents. My stomach went cold. I didn't steal anything. I accessed my grandmother's safety deposit box. The one she left to me, with a key she left for me. Your mother is the executor of the estate. Technically, all contents of that box should have been inventoried through probate. Technically, my mother forged a legal document. Pause. That's a serious claim. It's a serious recording. I'd like to hear it. I bet you would. Silence. Then his voice shifted. Less lawyer, more human. Ms. Whitmore, I'm going to be frank with you. If what you're saying is true, we have a problem, a significant one. But if you're wrong, if you've misinterpreted something or taken documents out of context, you could be facing charges yourself. I'm not wrong. Then we need to meet, today, and you need to bring everything. I met him at his office at 9, glass building, marble lobby. The kind of place where justice costs $400 an hour and comes with a leather-bound invoice. He listened to the recording twice, reviewed every document, cross-referenced signatures, checked dates against his own files. His face got progressively grayer. This is problematic, he said finally. That's one word for fraud. Ms. Whitmore, I need you to understand something. If we pursue this, it won't be a quiet family matter. There will be investigations, audits, potentially criminal charges. Your mother could face prison time. Your father's business will be scrutinized. Assets will be frozen. Your family's financial situation, which I gather is already precarious, will become public record. So I should just let it go? I'm saying you should understand the consequences before you pull this thread. What about the consequences of letting someone get away with forging a dying woman's signature? He sighed, took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes like he was trying to erase something. Your grandmother came to me in December 2018, wanted to change her will. I scheduled an appointment. She canceled it, said her daughter had convinced her it wasn't necessary. I noted it in my file, but I didn't push. People change their minds. Families are complicated. Did you know about the amendment? Not until after Rose passed. Your mother brought it to me with a notary seal and your grandmother's signature. It looked legitimate. I had no reason to question it. Except my grandmother told you she wanted something different. She told me. Then she changed her mind. Then she died. I executed the will as presented to me. Ever had your family's lawyer basically admit he chose the easy path over the right one? So what happens now? I asked. That depends on you. You can file a complaint with the probate court, provide the evidence, request an investigation. Or, he paused, measured his next words carefully. You can negotiate. Negotiate what? Your mother needs that estate to cover your father's debts. You need your inheritance honored. Perhaps there's a middle ground. You mean I give up the house and pretend none of this happened? I mean you get fair compensation for the Vermont property, your parents avoid criminal investigation, and everyone moves forward. That's extortion. That's family law. I left his office feeling like I'd been dipped in something toxic, the kind of contamination that doesn't wash off. My phone had 16 missed calls, all from my mother. I called her back. We need to talk, she said. No greeting, no pretense. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Come home. I'm not coming home until you admit what you did. Emma, please. This is destroying your father. Your choices are destroying your father. You don't understand the pressure. I understand you forged legal documents and stole my inheritance to cover up his gambling addiction. I understand you blackmailed a dying woman's best friend. I understand you lied to my face for 5 years. Silence. If you loved this family, she said quietly, you'd protect it. If you loved this family, you wouldn't have put it in this position. I did what I had to do to keep us afloat. You did what was easiest. There's a difference. She hung up. 20 minutes later, my bank account alert went off. Someone had tried to access my account. Failed login attempt. Then another. Then another. I called the bank. Changed all my passwords. Added 2-factor authentication. Froze my credit. My phone buzzed. Text from Jenna. Mom's looking for your documents. She thinks you left them in your room. Did you? No. Good. She's not herself right now. What does that mean? It means she's scared. And when she's scared, she gets dangerous. 3 dots pulsed. Disappeared. She's talking about contesting the recording, saying Grandma wasn't competent, that you're exploiting a confused elderly woman's ramblings. My hands went numb. She was lucid. I know, but Mom's hiring someone to say she wasn't. I sat in my car in the attorney's parking lot, watching normal people live normal lives, going to meetings, getting coffee, existing in a world where family meant safety instead of warfare. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Emma? This is Carol Winters, daughter. I'm sorry to call, but Mom passed this morning. The world tilted. I'm so sorry, I managed. She wanted me to tell you something. She recorded a statement before she died. About your grandmother. About your mother. She sent it to Attorney Morrison and the probate court. She wanted you to know she kept her promise. The line went quiet. Then, my mother spent the last 5 years of her life carrying someone else's secrets. Don't let them bury yours, too. She hung up. I sat there breathing. Just breathing, counting inhales like they were evidence that I was still here, still solid, still real. My phone buzzed again. Group text. My mother had created a family chat. Emergency family meeting, tonight, 7 p.m., everyone must attend. Then, separately, she texted just me, if you care about this family at all, you'll come, and you'll bring those documents. I drove to a print shop. Made copies of everything. Sent 1 set to my lawyer, 1 set to Attorney Morrison, 1 set to a friend in another state, with instructions to open it if anything happened to me. Then I went home. They were waiting in the living room, Mom, Dad, Jenna, and 2 people I didn't recognize, a woman with a briefcase, a man with a legal pad. Emma, these are our attorneys, Mom said. Pleasant, professional, like we were discussing property taxes instead of document fraud. I stayed standing. What's this about? The woman spoke. We'd like to discuss a settlement. For what? For the Vermont property. And for the return of documents taken from your grandmother's safety deposit box. Taken? I had the key. The key you obtained through unauthorized access to your mother's personal belongings. My pulse spiked. That's not what happened. Isn't it? You entered your father's office without permission. Searched his desk. Took a key that didn't belong to you. Accessed estate documents that were under probate seal. That's theft, Ms. Whitmore. That's protecting my inheritance from fraud. The man leaned forward. We'd like to avoid making this adversarial. Your family is prepared to offer you fair market value for the Vermont property. $250,000 in exchange for the documents, the recording, and your agreement not to pursue this matter further. So hush money. Compensation, the woman corrected, for your cooperation in resolving a family dispute. I looked at my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. And if I say no, then we'll be forced to pursue legal action against you for theft, defamation, and elder exploitation. Elder exploitation? She's dead. You're using recordings made by a woman under hospice care, a woman on significant pain medication, to make false claims about your mother. The room went airless. You're going to lie about Grandma's mental state to cover up fraud. We're going to present the full context, the woman said smoothly, including medical records showing significant cognitive decline in her final weeks. She was lucid when she recorded that. According to you. Dad finally spoke. Emma, please, just take the money. Let's end this. You want me to let you steal my inheritance, lie about Grandma, and pretend none of this happened? I want my daughter back, he said quietly. I want our family back. You should have thought about that before you gambled away our future. His face crumpled. Mom stood, walked over to me, spoke in a voice so low only I could hear. If you pursue this, I will make sure everyone knows what you've done. Every friend, every employer, every person you've ever trusted. I will destroy your reputation the way you're trying to destroy mine. I'm not trying to destroy anything, I'm trying to tell the truth. The truth, she whispered, is whatever people believe, and I'm very good at making people believe me. She stepped back, smiled at the attorneys. I think we're done here. They left. The front door closed. The house went silent. I looked at my family. My father broken in his chair. My mother standing like a general surveying a battlefield. My sister crying quietly into her hands. I won't take your settlement, I said. Then you'll lose everything, Mom replied, and so will we. Is that what you want? To watch your father lose his business? Your sister lose her apartment? Your family lose this house? I want the truth to matter. Then you're going to be very disappointed. I walked upstairs, locked my bedroom door, sat on my bed with my phone and my grandmother's recording, and a choice I never thought I'd have to make. Protect my family by becoming complicit in their fraud, or honor my grandmother by destroying everyone I loved. Their group chat went quiet. My cursor pulsed like a heartbeat ready to detonate. My father's company held its annual investor meeting on Thursday. 20 years of tradition, catered lunch, PowerPoint presentations, handshakes and projections, and the performance of stability. I'd been to dozens of these growing up. Sat in the back row doing homework while Dad talked about quarterly earnings and market expansion. Watched my mother work the room. Charming, gracious, the perfect partner in a perfectly constructed life. This year I had a ticket and a thumb drive. The conference room held about 60 people, investors, business partners, a few employees, people who trusted my father with their money, their time, their belief that he knew what he was doing. Mom saw me walk in. Her face went white, then red, then carefully neutral. She whispered something to Dad. He looked over. Our eyes met. I saw him calculate whether to have me removed or pretend everything was fine. He chose pretense. Always did. I sat in the back, waded through the opening remarks, the financial overview, the optimistic projections that somehow didn't mention the $300,000 hole in the foundation. Then came the Q&A. A woman in the third row raised her hand. Given the market volatility, how are you protecting investor capital? Dad smiled. Confident. Rehearsed. We maintain strict fiscal oversight and conservative risk management protocols. I stood up. 50 pairs of eyes darted between me and my father like they were watching a tennis match where someone had just brought a knife to the court. That's interesting, Dad, I said. My voice carried. Clear, steady. Because those protocols didn't stop you from gambling away $300,000 of company funds, did they? The room went silent. Not quiet, silent. The kind of silence that has weight. Emma, Mom's voice. Warning, pleading, this isn't the place. Isn't it? Seems like exactly the place. These people have a right to know what they're investing in. Dad stood frozen at the podium. His face had gone gray. You don't know what you're talking about. I have bank statements that say I do. I have transfer records. I have dates and amounts and a very clear pattern of funds moving from company accounts to offshore gambling sites. A man in the front row turned to his colleague. Whispered. Others pulled out phones. The room began to buzz, not with sound, but with energy, the electricity of scandal breaking in real time. Ever had your parent look at you like you've just set fire to their entire life while 60 people watched it burn? Those records are private, Mom said. She'd moved to the front, positioning herself between me and the investors, damage control, and taken out of context. They're time-stamped, they're notarized, and they're about to be very public. I pulled out the thumb drive, held it up like evidence in a courtroom. Everything is on here. The gambling, the forged estate documents, the $300,000 you stole from my grandmother's inheritance to cover his addiction, the recording of my grandmother saying she was afraid of you. The buzz got louder. Phones came out. Someone was definitely recording. You're making a terrible mistake, Dad said quietly. The mistake was thinking I wouldn't find out, or that I'd stay quiet once I did. A man stood up. Late 50s, expensive suit, the kind of investor who moves markets. Mr. Whitmore, I'd like to hear your response to these allegations. Dad opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Mom like she might have a script for this. She didn't. My daughter is experiencing a family conflict that she's chosen to air publicly. These accusations are completely unfounded. Are they? I pulled out my phone. Because I have Carol Winter's testimony, recorded before she died, explaining how you blackmailed her into silence about the forged documents. How you threatened to expose personal information about her family if she talked. Mom's composure cracked. Just for a second. Just long enough for everyone to see. Carol Winters was not a reliable witness, she said. Her voice had gone sharp. She was elderly, confused. She was lucid enough to file a notarized statement with the probate court 3 days before she died. Want me to read it? Emma, please. Dad's voice broke. You're destroying everything. You destroyed it. I'm just showing people the rubble. Another investor stood. Then another. The questions started flying. How long had this been going on? Were company funds secure? What other liabilities existed? Was there criminal exposure? Dad tried to answer. Stumbled. Mom took over. Her voice smooth, professional, explaining that this was a personal matter, a family dispute. Nothing to do with the business. Everything was fine. Assets were protected. This was all a misunderstanding. But her hands shook when she reached for the water glass. I watched her perform, watched her smile and deflect and minimize, watched her do what she'd always done, make people believe her version of reality through sheer force of conviction. Except this time, I had evidence, and witnesses, and a dead woman's voice saying things that couldn't be spun. If everything is fine, I said, cutting through her explanation, then let's have an independent audit. Let's review the company books. Let's see where the money went. Silence. That seems reasonable, the expensive suit investor said. I'll be filing a request with the board by end of day. Others murmured agreement. Phones kept recording. The performance of stability had collapsed into the reality of investigation. Mom looked at me across the room, not with anger, with something colder, recognition. I'd become the thing she feared most, someone who couldn't be controlled. You'll regret this, she said quietly, not a threat, a prophecy. Maybe. But at least I'll regret the truth instead of the lie. The meeting dissolved. Investors left in clusters, talking urgently. Business partners avoided eye contact with my parents. Someone from the board said they'd be in touch. The caterers packed up lunch that no one had eaten. I walked out into the parking lot. My hands were shaking, my pulse hammered in my throat. I'd just detonated my family's reputation in front of everyone who mattered to their survival. My phone buzzed. Text from Jenna. What did you do? Then another. It's everywhere. Someone posted video. It's going viral. Then another. Mom's lawyers are calling. They're talking about defamation. About restraining orders. I sat in my car and watched the notifications multiply. Comments, shares, reactions. Strangers weighing in on whether I was brave or cruel, right or wrong, hero or villain. The video had been shared 200 times in 10 minutes. 1,000 times in an hour. By evening, it had 50,000 views. My phone rang. Attorney Morrison. Ms. Whitmore, we need to talk immediately. Your mother is filing an emergency motion. She's claiming you violated privacy laws and committed defamation. She's requesting a restraining order and an injunction preventing you from sharing any additional materials. Can she do that? She can try. And given the public nature of your accusations, she might succeed. You've just made this a very different kind of case. A public one. A nuclear one. I hung up, sat in the parking lot watching investors leave in expensive cars, carrying their doubt, and their phones and their recorded evidence of my family falling apart in high definition. My grandmother's cookbook sat in the passenger seat. Red spine. Stained pages. Instructions for making something good from raw ingredients. I'd followed her recipe, measured the truth, mixed in the evidence, applied heat until the lies burned away. Now I just had to see if what remained was justice or ashes. The room inhaled as one. My grandmother's recording blinked like a heartbeat in the dock. The restraining order arrived at 6 a.m. via process server. A stranger knocking on my apartment door with legal papers and a clipboard requiring my signature. I was to stay 500 feet from my parents. No contact, no social media posts, no further dissemination of stolen private materials. Violation would result in immediate arrest. They'd weaponized the legal system to silence me, and it had taken them less than 12 hours. I sat on my apartment floor, reading the order. Every clause designed to box me in. Every restriction carefully worded to make me the aggressor, the unstable daughter spreading lies about her loving family. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Detective Sarah Chen, Financial Crimes Division. We received Carol Winter's statement, "I'd like to talk." Finally, someone who wanted the truth instead of the performance. We met at a coffee shop downtown. She was younger than I expected, early 30s. Sharp eyes that tracked everything. My body language, my word choices. The way I held my coffee cup like it might keep me tethered to something solid. "I've reviewed the materials," she said. "The recording, the bank statements, the forged amendment. Carol Winter's testimony. It's compelling." But your mother has retained very expensive counsel. They're claiming elder exploitation. They're saying you manipulated a dying woman and fabricated evidence to steal your inheritance. That's insane. That's strategy, and it's effective. They've filed counterclaims. They're painting you as the villain. Ever had the truth become so complicated that people find it easier to believe the lie? What do I do? She leaned forward. You let me build a case. You stop going to investor meetings and posting on social media. You let the investigation happen quietly. Because right now, you're making my job harder by making yourself the story. I'm not the story. The fraud is the story. In court, maybe. In public opinion, you're the angry daughter destroying her family, and juries care about public opinion. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, to explain that I didn't want any of this. I just wanted my grandmother's wishes honored and the truth acknowledged. But she was right. I turned myself into a character. The villain or the hero, depending on who was watching. And character assassination was easier than proving fraud. So I just wait. You cooperate. You provide evidence. You testify when we need you. And you let the system work. The system that almost let them get away with it? The system that's now investigating them because you didn't let it. She slid a card across the table. My direct line. If they threaten you, if they contact you, if anything happens, call immediately. I took the card. How long will this take? Months, maybe a year. Financial crimes cases move slowly. They'll destroy me in a year. Or you'll watch them destroy themselves. She left. I sat there with cold coffee and a business card, and the growing realization that exposing the truth was the easy part. Living through the aftermath was the siege. My phone rang. Jenna. Don't hang up, she said immediately. I'm not supposed to contact family? I know, I'm violating it too. But Emma, you need to know what's happening. What? Dad's business is collapsing. 3 major investors pulled out. The bank froze his line of credit. He can't make payroll. 20 people are losing their jobs. My stomach dropped. Mom's trying to refinance the house, but no one will touch us. We're going to lose it, everything, because you couldn't just take the settlement and let it go. Because I couldn't let them commit fraud and pretend it was love. They were trying to survive. By stealing from a dead woman. Silence, then crying, soft, broken. Jenna. I had to drop out of grad school. I can't afford it. Mom's selling her jewelry. Dad looks like he's aged 10 years. And you're sitting there feeling righteous while we all drown. That's not fair. None of this is fair. You got your truth. Congratulations. Now we get the consequences. She hung up. I sat there feeling like I'd won a war by napalming the village, like justice and destruction were the same thing, and I'd chosen both. My laptop pinged. Email from Attorney Morrison with the subject line, Developments. Inside, the probate court has ordered an independent review of your grandmother's estate. Your mother's attorneys are fighting it, but the judge granted the motion. Expect subpoenas. Also, your mother has filed a civil suit against you for defamation and tortious interference. You'll need your own counsel. I closed the laptop, calculated the cost, legal fees, time, energy, the emotional tax of depositions and cross-examinations, and my own family testifying against me in court. My grandmother's house, the thing I was fighting for, would be consumed by the legal bills before I ever saw it. Another text. Unknown number. This is Marcus from the investor meeting. I recorded everything. Your father just filed for bankruptcy. Thought you should know. Then another. This is Amanda Chen, reporter with the Tribune. I'd love to interview you about the case. Very sympathetic angle. Granddaughter fights family fraud. Interested? Then another. This is Kevin Patterson. I'm producing a podcast about family financial crimes. Your story would be perfect. Paid interview, good exposure. The vultures had arrived, circling the wreckage, wanting to pick clean the bones of my family's collapse for content, for clicks, for the algorithm that feeds on human tragedy. I turned off my phone, sat in silence, thought about my grandmother writing that letter, recording that message, hiding the deed, doing everything she could to protect me from this exact moment. Had she known that the truth would cost this much? That love and justice might be mutually exclusive? That I'd have to choose between honoring her and destroying everyone else? Or had she believed, hoped, that truth would be enough, that exposure would lead to accountability without annihilation? My laptop pinged again. Email from Detective Chen. Financial Crimes Division has opened a formal investigation into your parents. This is now a criminal matter. You'll be called to testify before the grand jury. Expect contact from the DA's office within 10 days. Criminal, not civil, criminal. My mother could go to prison. My father could lose everything. My sister already had. And I was the one who'd pulled the thread that unraveled it all. I opened my grandmother's cookbook, flipped through recipes written in her handwriting, annotations and adjustments, and little notes about making things taste like home. A piece of paper fell out, another letter, this one undated, just a few lines. Emma, if you're reading this, you found the truth. And the truth is probably hurting everyone you love. I'm sorry for that. But some truths are like forest fires. They destroy everything, but they also clear the ground for new growth. Don't let them make you regret being brave. The people who deserve you will understand. The people who don't will teach you what you're worth. You're worth more than their secrets. Grandma Rose. I folded the letter, put it in my wallet, carried it like armor. Then I called Attorney Morrison back. I need my own lawyer, someone who specializes in financial crimes defense. And I need them to be better than whoever my mother hired. I can make recommendations. Make them fast, and tell Detective Chen I'll cooperate fully. Every document, every testimony, every question, I'm not backing down. Ms. Whitmore, I need you to understand. This will get worse before it gets better. It's already worse. Now I'm making it count. I hung up, opened my laptop, started organizing every piece of evidence into a timeline, every date, every transaction, every lie that led to the next lie. If they wanted war, I'd give them documentation. If they wanted to destroy me publicly, I'd let the truth be my defense. If they wanted me to regret exposing them, they'd have to live with the fact that the only thing I regretted was not doing it sooner. My phone buzzed. Text from Detective Chen. Your mother's attorneys just requested a delay on the investigation, claiming you're an unreliable witness with a vendetta. Judge denied it. We proceed as scheduled. Then another text. This one from a number I didn't recognize, but a name I did. This is the probate judge, unofficial message. I knew your grandmother. She'd be proud of you. Stay strong. I breathed, just breathed. Let the validation sink in like medicine. Then I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I called my grandmother's old number, disconnected now, just ringing into void, but I talked anyway. Told her about the chaos, the lawsuits, the bankruptcy, the family fracturing like glass under pressure. Told her I was scared, that I didn't know if I was brave or just stubborn, if I was honoring her or destroying her legacy by burning down everyone she loved. Told her I missed her, that I wish she was here to tell me what to do next. The voicemail beep cut me off. Robotic voice, mailbox full. Even in death, my grandmother was still listening, still bearing witness, still holding space for the truth, even when no one else would. I saved the voicemail, added it to the evidence folder, another piece of the puzzle. Then I opened a new document, started writing my testimony, every detail, every moment. Every choice that led me here. Because Detective Chen was right. I couldn't control public opinion, couldn't stop my family from painting me as the villain, couldn't prevent the lawsuits or the bankruptcy or the social media pile-on. But I could control my story, my version, my truth. And when they put me on that witness stand, when they asked me why I did this, I'd have an answer that couldn't be cross-examined away. Because my grandmother asked me to, and I loved her more than I feared them. Judgment paused. Anxiety now lived in their veins, not mine. The grand jury testimony was scheduled for Thursday at 9 a.m., 3 days away. 72 hours to prepare for the moment that would either validate everything I'd done or bury me under perjury charges if I got a single detail wrong. My attorney, Catherine Reed, 50-something with a reputation for eviscerating white-collar criminals, sat across from me in her office reviewing my statement. "This is good," she said. "Detailed, chronological, emotional without being melodramatic. But they're going to come after your credibility. Your mother's team will paint you as vindictive, mentally unstable, a granddaughter exploiting a confused elderly woman for money. I'm not. I know. But perception is reality in a courtroom. So we need to be prepared for every angle of attack." She pulled out a file. "Thick, too thick. Your mother's attorneys have submitted a psychiatric evaluation. They're claiming you have a history of emotional instability. They've cited your college counseling records, which they obtained through questionable means, by the way, and interviews with family friends describing you as difficult and attention-seeking." My stomach went cold. They got my therapy records? They tried. We blocked most of it. But they have enough to create a narrative. Depressed college student, strained family relationships, sudden inheritance claim after years of minimal contact. That's not what happened. That's their version, and versions matter. Ever had your entire life rewritten by people who've decided you're the villain in their redemption story? She closed the file. "Here's what we do. We don't deny the therapy. We explain it. You were struggling in college. Normal. You sought help. Healthy. Your family knew about it. Supportive. But now they're weaponizing your self-care to discredit your testimony. That's the real story. Will the jury believe that? If we present it right. But Emma?" She leaned forward. "You need to prepare yourself for what happens in that courtroom. Your mother will be there. Your father. Maybe your sister. They will testify against you. They will say things that hurt. And you cannot react. I won't. You will. Everyone does. So we practice. We role-play every scenario until you can hear the worst things about yourself without flinching." We spent 3 days doing exactly that. Catherine playing my mother, reciting lines about my alleged instability, my jealousy, my manufactured claims, my theft of family documents. By Wednesday night, I could hear my mother's voice in my sleep, smooth, convincing, turning my truth into my pathology. The night before testimony, I couldn't sleep. Just lay in bed watching headlights crawl across my ceiling, counting the ways this could go wrong, the questions I might fumble, the evidence they might dismiss, the jury looking at me like I was the problem. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m. text from an unknown number. "This is Officer Rachel Torres. I was first responder on a domestic call at your parents' house tonight. Your mother tried to have your father arrested. Thought you should know." I sat up, called Catherine. "They're falling apart," she said when I told her. "That's what happens when lies compound. Eventually the structure collapses. Is this good for us? It's real, and real is what we need." Thursday morning came too fast. I dressed carefully, professional, credible, the costume of someone telling the truth, who needs to look like it. Catherine met me outside the courthouse. "Remember, answer only what's asked. Don't elaborate. Don't get emotional. Don't let them see you break." I won't break. Everyone breaks. The question is whether you break privately or on the record. The grand jury room was smaller than I expected. 12 people. Regular people. A teacher. A mechanic. A retired nurse. Citizens deciding whether my family's fraud rose to the level of criminal charges. The prosecutor, a woman named Janet Morales, stood to introduce the case. Clinical. Factual. Almost boring in her recitation of dates and amounts in legal statutes. Then she called me to testify. I walked to the witness chair, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth like it was a vow I'd already been living. Ms. Whitmore, can you tell us how you discovered the irregularities in your grandmother's estate? I did, step by step. The locked door, the key, the forged amendment, the recording, Carol's testimony, the safety deposit box. Every detail I'd cataloged over months of investigation. The jury listened. Some took notes. Others just watched my face, reading me the way you read a book you're not sure you trust. And why did you wait so long to report this? Because they're my family. I kept hoping there was an explanation that didn't involve fraud. But eventually you concluded there wasn't? Eventually the evidence made that conclusion unavoidable. Janet nodded, pulled out the recording. I'm going to play your grandmother's statement now. I need you to tell the jury, in your own words, why you believe this recording is authentic. The room went silent. My grandmother's voice filled the space, weak, thin, but unmistakably hers, unmistakably lucid, unmistakably afraid. I watched the jury's faces, saw the moment they shifted, from skeptical to attentive, from judging me to hearing her. When it ended, Janet asked, "Did your grandmother sound confused to you?" No, she sounded scared. Of what? Of my mother, of what would happen after she died, of her wishes being erased. A juror raised her hand. Can we hear it again? They played it 3 more times. Each time, I watched different jurors react, saw them connect to the fear in my grandmother's voice, the clarity, the prophecy of exactly what had happened. Then came the cross-examination. My mother's attorney, a man named Richard Blackwell, all silver hair and practiced sympathy, approached like a concerned uncle. Ms. Whitmore, you love your family, don't you? I did. Past tense? I love who they were, not who they became. And who did they become? People who chose money over integrity. He smiled, sad, patronizing. Or people who made difficult financial decisions during a crisis. Difficult decisions don't require forgery. You've been in therapy, haven't you? Catherine stood. Objection. Relevance. The prosecutor sustained it. Blackwell pivoted. You had limited contact with your family during college. Is that accurate? I was away at school. That's normal. But your relationship with your mother was strained? Sometimes. Like most families. Like families where the daughter feels overlooked, undervalued, perhaps resentful of siblings who stayed closer to home? I felt the trap closing. That's not what this is about. Isn't it? A young woman who felt disconnected from her family suddenly discovers a way to claim both money and moral high ground? I discovered fraud. The moral high ground came with refusing to participate in it. Or you discovered an opportunity and crafted a narrative around it. Catherine objected again. The prosecutor warned Blackwell. But the damage was done. I could see it in 2 jurors' faces. The seed of doubt planted. He continued. Your grandmother was on significant pain medication in her final weeks. Morphine, fentanyl, medications known to cause confusion and paranoia. Is it possible she wasn't as lucid as you believe? She was lucid enough to hide a letter, create a recording, and arrange for witnesses. Or you interpreted the confused actions of a dying woman as evidence because you needed it to be evidence. I have bank statements, transfer records, signatures that don't match. That's not interpretation, that's documentation. Documentation you obtained by stealing a key from your father's office. Documentation I obtained using a key my grandmother left for me. According to you. According to Carol Winters. According to the safety deposit box log showing my grandmother listed me as authorized accessor. He paused, regrouped. Ms. Whitmore, do you stand to inherit approximately $250,000 if your claims are validated? I stand to inherit what my grandmother wanted me to have. That's a yes or no question. Yes? So you have a financial incentive to make these accusations. I have a moral obligation to honor my grandmother's wishes. Convenient that morality and money align in your case. I looked at him, really looked at him, saw a man paid to make victims look like villains, to turn truth into tactic, to protect the guilty by prosecuting the brave. What's convenient, I said quietly, is that you get paid either way. Win or lose, you collect your fee. I get nothing but the truth. And if you can't see the difference, that's your problem, not mine. The room went still. Janet Morales smiled slightly. Catherine nodded. Blackwell's face tightened. No further questions. I stepped down, walked back to my seat. My hands were shaking, but I kept them folded, calm, controlled. Then they called my mother. She walked in looking smaller than I remembered, thinner, older, like the weight of her choices had physically compressed her. She wouldn't look at me, just stared straight ahead, answered questions in a voice stripped of its usual warmth, mechanical, rehearsed. She denied everything. The forged signature. The blackmail. The theft. Called my grandmother's recording the confused ramblings of a woman on hospice medications. Called my evidence circumstantial at best, falsified at worst. Called me a troubled young woman with a vendetta. She cried twice. Once when describing my grandmother's death. Once when describing how I destroyed the family. Performance or pain? I couldn't tell anymore. The jury watched her with the same measuring gaze they'd given me. When it was over, Janet Morales stood for closing remarks. You've heard two versions of the same events. A granddaughter who says she found evidence of fraud. A mother who says she's being falsely accused. But here's what we know for certain. Rose Whitmore wanted her house to go to her granddaughter. Rose Whitmore recorded a statement expressing that wish and her fear it wouldn't be honored. Rose Whitmore died. The house didn't go to her granddaughter. Instead, it went through an amendment signed after she lost the physical ability to sign documents. That's not circumstantial, that's fact. The question is whether those facts constitute criminal fraud. I believe they do. I'm asking you to agree. The jury filed out to deliberate. Catherine touched my arm. You did well. Did I do enough? We'll know soon. We waited 2 hours, maybe 3. Time felt liquid, unreliable. Then the foreman emerged. Read the decision. We find sufficient evidence to indict Eleanor Whitmore on charges of forgery, fraud, and elder financial abuse. My mother's face went white. The courtroom erupted. Her attorney objected. My father stood. Security intervened. I sat frozen, numb, watching my mother be formally charged with crimes I'd exposed but never quite believed would be prosecuted. Catherine leaned over. This is just the indictment. The trial comes next. Are you ready for that? I looked at my mother being escorted out by her attorneys, saw her glance back once. Not at me, just at the space where her life used to be. Ready or not, I said, it's happening. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Cameras, questions, microphones shoved toward my face. How does it feel to see your mother indicted? Do you regret exposing your family? What do you say to people calling you vindictive? Catherine guided me past them. No comment. No comment. Ms. Whitmore has testified fully and truthfully. She'll have no further public statements until trial. We got to her car. I collapsed into the passenger seat. What happens now? I asked. Now we prepare for the real fight, the criminal trial. That's where they'll bring everything, every dirty tactic, every character assassination, every attempt to flip this narrative. Can we win? You already won. The indictment proves that. The trial is just determining how much they lose. She drove me home. I sat in my apartment, alone, silent, processing the fact that I'd just helped indict my own mother for crimes I'd uncovered by refusing to look away. My phone buzzed. Text from Jenna. I hope you're happy. Mom's bail is $50,000. We don't have it. She's spending the night in jail because of you. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Another text. From Detective Chen. Strong testimony today you did the right thing. Right for who? For justice? For my grandmother? For the version of myself that could live with silence? I pulled out my grandmother's letter. Read it again. Don't let them make you regret being brave. Too late. I regretted everything and nothing, simultaneously, endlessly. My laptop sat open on the table. I started writing. Not testimony, not evidence, just truth. Raw, unfiltered. The kind of truth that doesn't get cross-examined because it lives inside you, whether anyone believes it or not. I wrote about love that enables, about family that consumes, about choosing between honoring the dead and protecting the living. I wrote until sunrise, until my hands ached. until every thought had somewhere to live outside my head. Then I saved it, titled it Tomorrow. Because tomorrow the world would hear every word, every page, every truth I'd been carrying since the moment I found that locked door. Tomorrow the world would hear every page rustle. Tonight I held the only copy. I stood in my grandmother's kitchen where my mother once taught me to measure flour. This time I held the deed with my name printed in legal ink. The trial lasted 6 weeks. 42 days of testimony and cross-examination and evidence presented in clinical language that stripped the emotion from betrayal. Witnesses testified. Experts analyzed signatures. Forensic accountants traced money through accounts like breadcrumbs through a forest where everyone was already lost. The jury deliberated for 11 hours. Guilty on all counts. I wasn't in the courtroom when the verdict came down, couldn't watch. Couldn't perform catharsis for the cameras or the family members who'd chosen sides, like picking teams for a game no one would win. Instead, I was here, in Vermont, in the house my grandmother wanted me to have, the one with creaky floors and wallpaper from the 70s and windows that looked out over mountains she'd painted in watercolors I found in the attic. My phone buzzed with the news. Text from Catherine. Guilty. Sentencing in 30 days. Call me. I sat on the porch steps, let the words sink in. Guilty. Legal validation. Official acknowledgement that I'd been telling the truth while everyone called me vindictive. The deed arrived by courier 2 days later. Notarized. Stamped. Final. Emma Rose Whitmore, sole owner of the property at 47 Maple Ridge Road, Burlington, Vermont. My grandmother's signature from 2018, the real one, authenticated and honored. I hung it on the wall in the kitchen, right where she used to keep her shopping lists and reminder notes, evidence that wishes could survive the people who tried to erase them. My mother's sentencing hearing was scheduled for a Thursday in March. I didn't go. Couldn't sit in that courtroom and watch her allocution, the part where she'd explain, justify, beg for leniency, where she'd cry and talk about family stress and impossible choices, and maybe, if her lawyers were smart, express some version of remorse that sounded rehearsed but legally sufficient. Catherine called after. 18 months, minimum security, eligible for early release with good behavior. That's it? White-collar crime. First offense. Judge considered the family circumstances. Could have been worse. Could have been accountability. Could have been proportional to the damage. Could have been justice instead of administrative inconvenience. But it was something. More than silence. More than complicity. More than the nothing I'd almost accepted. My father's business went under completely. Bankruptcy finalized. Assets liquidated. The house sold to cover debts. He moved to Arizona with my sister. Started over in a 1-bedroom apartment, working as a consultant for a company he used to compete with. He never apologized. Just sent one text. I hope you got what you wanted. I didn't respond. Because what I wanted wasn't his business dissolving, or my mother in prison, or my sister barely speaking to me. What I wanted was for none of it to be necessary, for the truth to have mattered before it had to be weaponized. But wanting and getting are different continents. Jenna called 6 months after the sentencing. I'm in therapy now. That's good. It's expensive, but I needed to understand everything. Yeah. My therapist asked me what I would have done, in your position, if I found what you found. What did you say? I said I would have taken the settlement, that I wouldn't have been brave enough to burn it all down. Pause. But then she asked me what that said about me, about what I value, about what I'm willing to tolerate to keep the peace. What did you say? I didn't have an answer. We talked for an hour. Didn't fix anything, didn't undo the damage or restore the family or rewrite the past 5 years, just talked. 2 sisters trying to figure out how to exist in the aftermath of honesty. Carol Winters, daughter, sent me a box of her mother's things, photo albums, letters, a necklace Carol had worn every day I'd seen her, and a note. Mom said you'd understand why she waited, why she couldn't speak up sooner. But she also said you'd be the one to make it right. Thank you for proving her faith wasn't misplaced. I wear the necklace sometimes, when I need to remember that courage looks different for everyone, that some people speak up immediately, others wait until they're dying, and both matter. The Vermont house needs work. New roof, updated plumbing, windows that seal properly. But it's mine, legally, morally, completely. I painted the bedroom my grandmother's favorite color, sage green, hung her watercolors on the walls, kept her cookbook in the kitchen with all the recipe cards still tucked inside. Sometimes I read them aloud. Add extra vanilla. Don't overmix. Let it rest before serving. Instructions for more than baking. Ever watch the person who erased you realize they're the one being wiped? My mother sends letters for minimum security, short, careful, never quite apologizing but circling the concept like she's waiting for permission to land. I don't respond. Not out of cruelty. Out of self-preservation. Because forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. And I can wish her healing without providing the space for her to do it at my expense. The podcast producer still emails. The reporter still requests interviews. The internet still has opinions about whether I'm a hero or a monster, victim or opportunist, brave or vindictive. I stopped reading comments months ago. Stopped performing my truth for people who'd never believe it anyway. Stopped trying to control a narrative that was never really mine to control. I just live here now. In the house my grandmother wanted me to have. In the truth I fought for. In the quiet aftermath of standing my ground when everyone said I should sit down. Some mornings I wake up and forget for a second. Think I'm still in my apartment. Still collecting evidence. Still preparing for battle. Then I see the mountains through the window. Feel the creaky floorboards under my feet. Smell coffee brewing in my grandmother's old pot. And I remember, I won. Not perfectly, not without cost, but completely. The deed hangs in the kitchen. The truth lives in court records. The family I had is gone, but the family I deserved. My grandmother's legacy, Carol's sacrifice, the version of myself who refused to look away, that family is here. Solid, real, mine. If you'd handed the evidence to the FBI and walked away without confrontation, comment fire. If you'd taken the settlement and kept the peace, comment oncoming police car. I'm counting. Watch what happens when the person who tried to silence you realizes you were recording the whole time. Their downfall uploaded, time-stamped, and permanent.